how there would not be strong independent decisions taken within the ministries to ensure the growth of the country, the structural reform of the country, whether it was defense or infrastructure or health. Dr. Bhattacharya, can there be an honest analysis be made on the number of policies that were brought in under the UPA era and the ones that were brought in under the BJP?
So I think, people do make mistakes in policies. If you look at in the last 10 years, there were policies that came out and it turned out to be, a policy that needs further work, and was quickly fine-tuned and brought back, and that has been happening. Let me look at the policy of PPP that happened for developing road infrastructure. In fact, that road initiative was started by the Vajpayee government in 2000, which is what made India a very attractive destination, because once you have the road infrastructure in place, everything else opens up. Healthcare opens up, education opens up, and obviously industry opens up. So the funds that were brought in through the NHI bonds, those NHI bonds were returned back in 2004, and then PPP was used as a mechanism. Now, those PPPs were not implemented appropriately, which meant that many of the companies which actually put money in from their own pocket did not get paid back. The interest component of debt finished off their balance sheet, to the extent that even now, when the government thinks of PPP to be used for creating infrastructure, there aren't too many companies who are able to do that, because they have already been finished off during the previous era of trying to use PPP in a defective manner to roll out infrastructure. If you look at, let's say even hardware, there was severe inverted duty structure, which basically meant that you could import finished, phones and PCs and laptops at zero duty. But if you try to manufacture them locally, each component you bring in, you will have to pay taxes on it. So you will never be competitive, because the goods coming from outside have zero taxes, but the goods you're making in India have got significant taxes put on to them. To the extent by that it was predicted that by 2015, 2016, our electronics import bill will exceed our oil import bill, and we came pretty close to it. And from there to being the second largest producer of mobile phones, moving into a producer of laptops and PCs, is a significant change that has happened. So there's been a constant, thrust to try a new policy. If it doesn't work, change it, and so on and so forth in the last 10 years. What happened before that is quite perplexing, that things did not work and it was continued, or abandoned, companies were abandoned, projects were abandoned. If you look at, let's say, even defense, what was the significant procurement that happened in those 10 years? We had a very honest defense minister in terms of Mr. A.K. Anthony, but he was so honest that he was afraid to procure anything. The only thing he procured was Augusta choppers, and that had a problem in it. And so we see that, the good people who in that regime were very scared to do anything. When they did anything, there were, kickbacks that got involved. The regular policies were not fine-tuned. The two issues on which the Prime Minister had offered to quit was on the nuclear deal and on retail. Now, neither of those issues were really a government of India, an Indian issue. They were both issues of the American companies and of Americans. Retail and large format retail was something driven by Walmart and so on and so forth. Nuclear was being driven by the US government. So at that time, the Prime Minister was willing to quit. But when it came to the scams and Coal-G and 2G and so on and so forth, what was told was that it's a coalition dharma.
Okay.
Now, those are two different issues and different responses at that point in time, which is again very perplexing.